From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Today on a special edition of AgDay from New Orleans, wrapping up the 2019 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show with the Secretary of Agriculture.
They've got to play by the rules, and if that's the case, I think we're willing and able.
Reaction from trade talks and a look forward at what cattlemen hope to accomplish.
And what does the cattle industry need when it comes to trade? We talk with experts here in New Orleans.
Machinery Pete from a frigid Minnesota with insights on equipment markets and having a little fun in the cold.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning and welcome to this special edition of AgDay. I'm Clinton Griffiths as we're wrapping up our coverage of the 2019 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show from New Orleans. This year, attendees coming in just shy of 9,000 strong, just below an all-time record, but still great attendance at this year's convention. And capping off a busy week, the Secretary of Agriculture making his second trip to New Orleans this winter, having just recently attended the American Farm Bureau Federation convention in early January. Now, I got a chance to sit down and ask the Secretary several pressing questions, including his reaction to last week's trade negotiations between the U.S. and China.
I think there's a very serious desire on both sides to reach a comprehensive trade deal, and I know the President expressed that. And obviously we have a lot of work to do. We've known that China has really involved themselves in international intellectual property transfer, forced transfer, sometimes theft, and there's got to be some structural reforms there. That's even happened in agriculture, as you know. So I'm hoping that China will recognize to be part of the international trading family. They've got to play by the rules, and if that's the case, I think we're willing and able. We've had a team in China earlier this year with Undersecretary McKinney and our trade folks there, along with the U.S. Trade Ambassador Lighthizer, and things are going well. They know what we want. We know what they want. It's a matter of the willingness to comply with that, as well as enforcement mechanisms. It's easier to say something on paper but not live up to it, and we've got to make sure that there are significant and adequate enforcement mechanisms over intellectual property transfers.
Your office is implementing a new farm bill, a big win for 2018, but a lot of work yet to be done. How is that coming together now that everyone's kind of back to work in Washington?
Well, most people who know me from the private sector know I'm a sooner rather than later guy. I don't understand sometimes the pace of D.C., but we're working hard. Even during the shutdown, we had skeletal teams in beginning the preparation for farm bill implementation, because you know when the legislation's passed, just the work begins regarding the rules and regulations that our producers have to comply with. So we hope to have that out soon. I wish I had a drop-dead timeline on that, but we are on it, and we're going to be working on it feverishly from now until we get it done.
Talking with the folks here at the Cattle Industry Convention, it's interesting, you know, the grain folks seem to be following the China trade discussions, but their biggest concern is Japan and TPP and the competition that they're going to see. Do we have an update on how those talks may be progressing or go this year? Well,
the good news about it, it is the top of the list of Ambassador Lighthizer's efforts. While he is really busy and with China and many other areas, he and I had a discussion last week as well, and he understands how important the Japan business is. He understands the threat of the implementation of the global TPP among those other 12 nations, and he wants to get a deal done prior to that time so our producers won't be hurt. He understands the commodities that are very important there, beef being one of those, and I'm hopeful that we can get it done. And we want all the non-trade barriers to come down, and people to understand that our American growers grow some of the best beef in the world. I'll give you a little anecdote I may share later today, is that Vice Premier He yesterday in front of the President said he had a wonderful steak the night before and he knew his people wanted more beef.
You can watch the full interview between the Secretary and I online at agweb.com. As we mentioned, the U.S. and China are wrapping up another round of trade talks last week, and it appears both sides have agreed to do more talking. Following 2 days of talks, China's lead negotiator, Vice Premier Liu He, met with President Trump and other U.S. negotiators in the Oval Office. He revealed China would buy another 5 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans. President Trump saying the purchase was a fantastic sign of faith and calling the buy music to agriculture's Sonny Perdue's ears.
5 million.
5 million tons of soybeans.
5 million tons of soybeans. Wow.
Per day.
That's great. Per day. That's going to make our farmers very happy. That's a lot of soybeans. So they started on a smaller scale, and today they're starting very big, and I very much appreciate that. Please tell President Xi, and on behalf of the agricultural industry and on behalf of our farmers, frankly, we appreciate it very much. It's a very big order.
Now, the White House later confirmed that it was one order for 5 million metric tons, not 5 million metric tons per day. No timeline was given for that buy. It's also unclear whether the purchases China made in December after the 90-day trade truce was called are part of the new commitment. President Trump said besides soybeans, China would also buy lots of corn, wheat, and other products. Trade talks, a big topic of conversation here at the convention, but not just with China. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon joins us now with a look at what the industry would like to see when it comes to trade in the future.
Clinton, for another year, the priority stays the same. The cattle industry vocal, they want a free trade deal with Japan. No matter the place, cattlemen want more trade.
It's something that's causing distraction that it just needs to get done, and that's simple.
Is it going to hurt? Probably at some point, yes. Am I ready for that? Yes, I am, because I think we got to level the playing field.
Even though Japan is a big buyer of U.S. beef, the industry says getting a bilateral deal done there is critical for the industry.
As our #1 export partner, the Japanese market is one that we have to get, and we have to get right.
And the country is not waiting for the U.S., inking fresh deals with the EU and Australia.
The Australians have moved ahead of us. Their free trade agreement that really started to play out at the end of 2018, we're going to start to see some pressure on our export volumes into Japan.
Then there's the updated TPP, all deals which don't include the United States.
And it's a 15-year implementation period. So at the end of that 15 years, if there, just theoretically, if there is no change, we would be 38.5% duty and the CPTPP countries would be 9%. So obviously this is not sustainable.
But cattlemen want to expand a deal with China too, as exports have been slow moving.
It's just that with that trade officially open in June of 2017, before the tariffs started going into place in July of 18, we simply hadn't had enough time to really see that those trade relationships develop.
There's also pressure to ratify the USMCA deal between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Cattle groups participating in calls with the White House and U.S. Trade Representative's office.
The message on this call is to engage local, regional, state officials, talk it up to elected officials on Capitol Hill.
A deal producers hope can be ratified soon.
We were able to do just like we had NAFTA. There are 0 tariffs and 0 non-tariff barriers.
More work is yet to be done on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. According to Senate Finance Chair Chuck Grassley from Iowa, he'd like to see the U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs lifted before Congress moves forward with approving that deal. Grassley saying producers are unlikely to realize the promises made with the new agreement while those tariffs remain in place.
You know, I think we have a good chance that it could get done, depending upon presidential politics, what the Speaker wants to see happen. We'll see. I was just on a conference call with the White House and the U.S. Trade Representative's office a few minutes ago, getting the latest update on what the plans are. And so the U.S. Trade Representative's office is much more optimistic that we have a legitimate chance. But we have a lot of work ahead of us, and National Cattlemen's Beef Association could be one of the producer trade associations working hard to make sure we get it over the finish line.
Meteorologist Mike Hoffman is here, and Mike, we're starting this week much warmer than last week.
Well, thanks, Clinton. What a difference a week makes. With warmer temperatures on the way this week, many of you still sharing photos from last week's Arctic blast, though. Brooke Sprung in northern Iowa shared this photo with us on Facebook. She said it was a balmy 27 below on Wednesday morning when she took this photo of some spectacular sundogs. Conditions were certainly ripe for them last week. And taking a look at the drought monitor, you can see the only issues we have are in the Four Corner region and around Oregon. Kind of unusual to see that little area covered by drought around the lower 48. We'll see as we head into spring. I'll have your forecast coming up in just a few minutes, but first here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
We're here at the Cattle Industry Convention, but that doesn't mean other markets haven't moved. We'll dig into grains coming up in analysis. And later, beating cabin fever by getting crafty, how one mom made the Arctic blast unforgettable.
The Safeguard Cleanup Sweepstakes is going on now with more than $50,000 in prizes up for grabs. Enter for your chance to win at cleanupwithsafeguard.com.
We caught up with Craig Van Dyke here at the Cattle Industry Convention NCBA Trade Show. And Craig, I know everyone's talking about cattle, but let's talk about grains because there was some movement in grains this week and a lot of chatter about trade as we start a fresh week.
Yeah, late end of the month, type of positioning going on. But, the recent announcement with the big potential purchase of Chinese buying U.S. soybeans. We've seen the rumors come and go over the past 5-6 months, which unfortunately turns me off as far as whether or not we're supposed to believe some of that.
Yeah.
But both corn, beans, and wheat have been kind of coiling up over the past few weeks. Personally myself, I've had a lot of questions as to why the soybean market has held up as well as it has, and with some of the recent developments here at the end of the week that, okay, maybe we're starting to get reasons as to why. So. Bigger picture with the market coiling up the past few weeks, more recently this week, that we're maybe looking for some excitement here all of a sudden, and maybe this was the spark to light the fire.
Yeah, well, we need a little spark, and we'd love to see a little bit of a spark in grains. As we wait for that information to come from USDA later this week, we should start to see some more numbers trickle in. Anything that you're expecting as far as what to be watching for?
Well, probability-wise, I think for me one of the bigger numbers is going to see what they say about corn. Obviously there could be a lot of variance in what they put in as far as the soybean market go, and we've had a lack of information for a while now, which is a recipe for volatility and wide ranges of estimates just as to what exactly the numbers might say, and markets will react to that accordingly. So it's a recipe for a lot of volatility for sure, but as far as the corn side goes, I'm more excited to see just exactly what they put last year's corn production at. To me, that was something I was looking forward to, in January's report, and we'll still get it. It'll just be a little bit behind when we would have liked to see it.
Yeah, so much to find out. Appreciate you being here and a fun show. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343. Ag Day, brought to you by Precision Planting, provider of practical and effective precision ag technologies to help make farmers smarter every season. Learn more at precisionplanting.com.
Welcome back to this special edition of Ag Day. I think after last week's cold, everyone wants meteorologist Mike Hoffman to tell us that polar vortex is going away for good. Mike?
Yes, we are, Clinton. There's no doubt about that, but I do see colder air coming once again. Nothing like last week, though. Don't worry about that. Here's the estimated rain over the past week. This takes us from a week ago Saturday through this past Friday. Really, with it being so cold, there wasn't a lot of moisture in the air. Even several inches of snow comes down to very little moisture once you melt it down. But Florida ended up, southern edge of all that cold air, getting some decent rains in places. Some areas getting 2 to 3 inches of moisture. There's a jet stream as we head through this week. Unlike last week's polar vortex right over the northern Great Lakes, well, this week's kind of opposite. You kind of see the trough out in the west. That's going to be a pretty big storm coming into the west coast. There's Wednesday. All of that moisture is going to be feeding through the middle of the country, and that's going to give a pretty wet week to many places. Really from the southwest into the northeast, and colder and colder air will begin to come back in. Now, most of this is centered over Canada, but there's enough of it that'll press into the northern tier of states more than likely as we head through this week, and you're going to start off much chillier than normal in the southwest already. So here's my forecast for temperatures this week. You're going to start off mild up here, end up colder, so we'll go below normal. You're going to start off colder down here, but end up milder. So I still think you'll end up on average below normal, but above normal then you can see East Coast, Southeast, and far South Texas. As far as precipitation this week, above normal, the Great Lakes, Middle Mississippi Valley back into the west. Below normal then for the Southeast and far South Texas and far northwestern portions of the country. Let's take a look at the 90-day outlook. Here are the February temperatures. I'm going below normal. Most areas east of the Continental Divide, except Central and South Florida, above normal in the far west. March will start to shrink that below normal area, mainly in the Ohio, Tennessee valleys and the southeast. Above normal, the Dakotas back into California and Oregon. And look at April. It warms up for most of the country anyway as we head into the third part of the 90-day outlook. Here's the overall 90-day outlook for precipitation going below normal for the Great Lakes area, above normal, far southeast, North Texas, back into the southwest, and also below normal in the Pacific Northwest down into Northern California. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, San Diego, California, cloudy and cool, spotty showers. That's unusual. High of 62. Marquette, Michigan, cloudy, periods of snow. That's not unusual. High of 33. And Rochester, New York, mostly cloudy and mild with an afternoon high of 52.
Still ahead, Machinery Pete has the new lead on a great deal.
Hey, stay tuned, folks. Coming up, I'm going to highlight a dramatic example of the importance of an extended warranty.
Ag Day, brought to you by Corvus Corn Herbicide from Bayer. Get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards.
Well, folks, if you get my Pete's Pick of the Week on your cell phone every Friday, thank you for receiving it. And you might remember that last Friday I highlighted Case IH Magnum 290 tractors. Now, I want to talk about these a little more. Now, Case IH made this model from 2011 to 2014. And last week, I actually saw 4 of them sold at auction. Now, the lowest price one came on an online auction out of Oklahoma. That was a 13 model, 2,249 hours on it, sold for $89,000. And from there, we bumped up to this one, a 14 model with 1,952 hours on it that sold for $97,500 on an auction in Mississippi. And we keep climbing a little bit higher, and we work our way up to north central Indiana last week, where this 14 model with 1,300 hours on it sold for $112,500. Now, the king of the hill last week was this one. Sold last Wednesday on a farm auction in west central Iowa, another 14 model, only 560 hours on it, sold for $151,000. Now, folks, when I look at our auction price data on Magnum 290s, that $151,000, that's the highest auction price since December 6th of 2012, so just over 6 years. But now, one key point on that tractor, it had a Cenex extended warranty for 10 years or 10,000 hours. Now, I've written and blogged a lot about the importance of warranties the last couple of years on these tractors and combines, and that might be the best example right there of the value of that extended warranty.
All in a Row, a new resource for crop and farm management information, is brought to you by Farm Journal and Valent USA. The Safeguard Cleanup Sweepstakes is going on now with more than $50,000 in prizes up for grabs. Enter for your chance to win at cleanupwithsafeguard.com.
Temperatures here in New Orleans have been in the mid-60s, pretty comfortable, but most folks have been keeping a pretty close eye on things back home as we saw such a dramatic dip in temperatures last week. The mercury dropping double digits below zero in many cases, shattering records, and along with that, busting water pipes, idling car batteries, canceling schools, and shuttering businesses, many staying inside in front of a warm fire or huddled under blankets. But some people got a little crafty, like Tara Schrock, who was born and raised on a farm in Illinois. She's the mom of 3 and a wife, and shared this picture with us on Twitter. She said she decided to take a family picture on Thursday. That's when it was a balmy 22 below. Those jeans all frozen in place. She said, quote, "To many of my Canadian and cold weather ag Twitter friends, we aren't well adjusted to these cold climates here in Illinois." Amazing what Mother Nature and a mom with a little sense of humor can do. And that's going to wrap up our coverage here at the Cattle Industry Convention. We really enjoyed our time here. We hope you enjoyed the shows, and thanks to our sponsors for helping make it possible. We're going to leave you now with a little of the sights and sounds of New Orleans from the NCBA trade show, thanks to photojournalist Dawn Green. Have a great day, everyone, out in farm country.